so much about.
The Mediterranean is sick. It's being poisoned slowly but steadily for those who need it most.
The 1970s found a world grappling with an unprecedented crisis of pollution. Could the seemingly irreparable damage be undone? UNEP inspired the world to take action, preventing oil spills and toxic discharge by ships, uniting 143 coastal states to limit ocean pollution and save marine life, reducing air pollution and ending the scourge of acid rain. But soon, the world would face its biggest environmental challenge yet.
The destruction of the ozone layer on a global scale is no longer just a theory. The hole over the Antarctica is no longer an isolated seasonal phenomenon.
If the breach continued to grow, the planet would suffer lethal levels of ultraviolet radiation, harming human health, biodiversity, and climate. In 1987, UNEP facilitated the Montreal Protocol. Over 30 countries agreed to phase out the production of almost 100 ozone-depleting substances. The protocol remains one of the greatest achievements of multilateralism.
All nations gathered here to be proud of what we had achieved.
This success set the tone for a series of powerful accords, limiting the movement of toxic waste across borders, protecting the Earth from dangerous, long-lasting chemicals, and restricting the international trade in mercury. Most recently, in 2021, UNEP finished a 2-decade-long campaign to rid the world of highly toxic leaded petrol, saving an estimated 1 million lives each year. As the world grappled with pollution and waste, another crisis was brewing.
I have dreamt of seeing the great herds of wild animals, jungles and rainforests, full of birds and butterflies. But now I wonder if they will even exist for my children to see.
Poaching and habitat loss were pushing some of the world's most iconic animals to the brink of extinction. Driven by science, UNEP supported a series of international treaties, limiting and in some cases banning the trade of endangered species, safeguarding migratory animals, expanding protected areas, and increasing financing for biodiversity protection. The seminal Earth Summit in Brazil introduced the idea of sustainable development.
This is an historical moment for the mobilization of all peoples of the world.
Over the last 5 decades, UNEP has helped more than 100 countries enshrine the right to a healthy environment in their constitutions and produced scientific studies to guide member states in their decision-making. In 2012, a new international body was established to provide scientific data on biodiversity in a joint effort from UNEP and other UN organizations. In 2019, it found that 1 million species face the threat of extinction, underscoring the urgency to act.
Every action we take alters the earth that future generations will inherit.
The world is starting to recognize the effects of planetary warming, but UNEP began sounding the alarm 3 decades ago. As early as 1988, UNEP and the World Meteorological Organization launched the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. For over 30 years, IPCC science has helped member states counter climate change, earning the body a Nobel Prize for its work. UNEP-backed studies have informed some of the planet's most crucial climate accords. These include a 1992 agreement that set a template for curbing greenhouse gas emissions, followed by the Kyoto Protocol and the landmark 2015 Paris Agreement.
I'm proud to announce that 175 parties have signed the Paris Agreement.
UNEP has also mobilized 450 banks, insurers and investors to help create a more sustainable world.
We don't want fossil fuels anymore.
A lot has happened in the last 50 years, but it's the next 10 that will be pivotal for life on this planet.
But in fact, what you and I and other ordinary people around the world can do
will not by itself save the natural world. The great decisions, the great disasters that face us can only be dealt with by governments. And that's why this organization is so important.
Over the past 50 years, we've seen when the world decides to act, the world comes together to act. Together with member states and partners, we've achieved a lot. But now is the time to truly make that lift for humanity and to do much more and much faster. And I have every reason to be hopeful. As an organization grounded in science, UNEP will do everything in its power to push for breakthroughs. Our planet and humanity depends on us. Together, we can build a greener and safer and fairer world for all.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Is it from my side or no one is speaking?
Good morning.
Hello.
Stan. Yeah,
Morning.
please.
Hello, team. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yeah.
Great. Great. Hello, great innovators. Good morning once again. I welcome you. Welcome. Are you happy to be here? Am I the only person who is happy to be here? And if you can hear me, please let me know.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning, sir. I can hear you.
Great. Okay, participants. My name is Prince Inyong, and once again, I will be your moderator today. From the video that we just saw, I was see how in our need to develop, to achieve things, we've also caused so many problems according to that video. And even up till today, yes, we've tried as humans to make amends, but it's not always so easy to build as it is easy to destroy. And so progress is happening very, very slow. And even if you look at the news today, you see so many issues that are being caused by humans. There's a lot of bad news, yes, but I have good news for you this morning. Do you want to hear the good news? Interested? Yes, good morning, Emelda. Emelda, good morning. Good morning, Inyeme Joshua. Happy to have you here. Good morning. Yes, Mustafa, nice to meet you too. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Ngozi Honoriode, hi. How are you? Oh my God. King said, Mr. Prince, network is always bad. Oh no, this is not my story. This is not my story. Don't worry. I am going to shock you today. My network is going to be excellent. Yes, yes. Yes, great. I see that we are in high spirits and everybody is ready. Thank you for joining. Yes. Ola is interested in my good news. Okay, you want is that you are here. Yes, celebrate. Let me send you love. Let me send you some love, because the good news is that you are here. And because you are here, the world has hope. Yes, there is hope for Nigeria and there is hope for the world. So celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself. Great. So we have a packed day, and I'm sure that you are going to learn a lot. But before then, before we call on our teacher for today, I like to hear from you. Who remembers what we learned last week? Do you even remember? Do you remember something? Abdullahi, do you remember? Edet Edem. Do you remember? Yes, tell me if you remember. What was our topic? What was our topic? And if you would like, you can still tell us what you learned. What stood out for you last week? I am waiting. Yes, everybody is saying good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Musa says he's experiencing a bad network. Oh, you see, so it's not only me. Not only me. Okay. But Musa, don't worry, to get better. Environmental pollution and sustainable waste management. Great. That is from Abdul. Great. Yes, environmental pollution and sustainable waste management. You are doing great. It means you listen. It means you were present. Good. Idowu says environmental pollution and sustainable waste management. Great. Waste management. Idris says waste management. Yes. Mansour Shebu says, good morning, sir. Well done for the presentation. Thank you. Well done to the ADEF team. Environmental pollution and sustainable. Great, guys. Clap for yourselves. I celebrate you. You guys are present, and there is hope for Nigeria. There is hope for the world, because you are taking this very seriously. And so, I will be on our teacher for today. Please, I'd like to encourage you to do away with any distractions. Tell your family members, tell your colleagues that it is the RecycleUp workshop. I will be calling on our facilitator, but before I call on our facilitator, I am going to read his bio quickly. Just a minute. Okay, so our facilitator for today is Mr. Kajitan Okeke. He is the General Secretary, Recyclers Association of Nigeria. Kajitan is a social entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience in plastic recycling and municipal solid waste management. He co-founded Alamong Recyclers Limited, leading initiatives that recover on average of 60 tons of plastic monthly. Kajitan leverages data-driven solutions and engages the informal sector to improve recycling in Nigeria. He also provides consultancy on market analysis and operational setup in the plastic waste management sector. Collaborating with experts like Professor Norum, he conducts research on e-waste and food-grade plastic waste management. With two master's degrees in environmental ethics, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, and politics, Royal University, Bochum, Germany. Kajitan combines academic solutions. His work bridges ethics, economics, and environmental policy to promote long-term ecological balance. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have the General Secretary, Recyclers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Kajitan Okeke. You are welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. Please, you can have the mic. Please celebrate him. Celebrate him, guys. Show some love. Show some love. Welcome, sir.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, the hosts. Good morning, those that are live streaming and those on Zoom. I'm glad for this opportunity to share my knowledge and my experience with everyone on this call. So I've been asked to speak on environmental policies and regulations in Nigeria. So there are many of them, and we will not be talking about all of them individually. We select some of them so that we can have a general grasp. I don't know if you can see my screen now. Hello, can anyone confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes, you can see.
So, environmental policies and regulations in Nigeria, frameworks, instruments, and implementation. So this will be shared with us by Kajitan Okeke, who is also the General Secretary of the Recyclers Association of Nigeria. And the purpose of this session is to clarify Nigeria's environmental policy and regulatory structure, distinguish policy from regulations, and review key instruments, highlight practical implementation questions and challenges. Why this topic matters? We have rising waste generation and pollution pressure. Now, when the host was speaking, and he asked about what we've learned so far, someone talked about sustainable waste management. So we have rising waste generation and pollution pressure. So if we do not manage the waste sustainably, it becomes a problem. And if we do not have the right policies that will point us towards that sustainable waste management, it also becomes a problem. Then if we do not have the right regulations that will stipulate what we should do, how we should do it, and what defaulters should face, it also becomes a problem. So our actions are also linked to policies and regulations. Then we have weak enforcement across sectors. So we may discover that we actually have the regulations, but some of them are not adequately enforced. Then we have fragmented institutional coordination. There are key actors at the federal level and at the state level. So sometimes there seems to be lack of or inadequate harmonization in their operations. Increasing role of private sector and recyclers. So we that operate within the private sector space. We also need to know about the policies and regulations that guide our operations. Now, distinguishing policy from regulation. Policy points to direction and principles. And key characteristics include non-binding, long-term goals, and vision-driven. But the most important thing is direction and principles. While regulations, they are binding rules. Key characteristics, they are enforceable standards. The legal, there are consequences if we do not operate by those provided rules. And then they are also gazetted. Then we also have guidelines. So for the purpose of this sharing, we've used the EPR guideline. So the EPR guideline is a bridge instrument. It translates policy into operational action for producers. So we get to learn more about this in the course of this presentation. But it is important for us to know that policy is different from regulation, and guideline is also different from policy. But a guideline can be a guideline for the implementation of a policy. The guideline can also be for the implementation of an existing regulation. Environmental governance structure. So a structured view of national policies, sector regulations, and institutional actors. So we have national policies. There are two major national policies that are identified in the course of preparing this, preparing for this webinar. One is National Policy on Environment, and the other is National Policy on Plastic Waste Management. Then we have regulations. The regulations are sector specific, and there are implementation regulations, and there are also guidelines in some cases. So as we may later see, Nigeria has gazetted 35 regulations. Then we have institutional actors. We have the Federal Ministry of Environment. We have the State Ministries of Environment. We have Nigeria National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency. Then we also have state agencies in different states. So we have, for example, in Lagos, we have LOMA, we have LATEPA. In Abia State, we have ASEPA. So we have state waste management authorities or agencies. So they are part of the institutional actors. Nigeria regulatory context. Now, Nigeria has over 35 environmental regulations in force, but if you go to Nigeria website, you see 35 on the dot, 35 environmental regulations in force. I know there is a regulation that should come in place between now and the month of May. Yeah, that should be one between now and the month of May, but it is 35 environmental regulations that are in force. And these 35 regulations can be accessed on Nigeria website. They are all there. You have access to them, you can download them. They are also published in official gazette. Then these regulations address sector-specific environmental risk. For example, there's a regulation on management of batteries. There's a regulation on management of electronic waste. There is a regulation on management of charcoal. There's a regulation on the management of hospital waste. So they address sector-specific environmental risk or environmental challenges or environmental needs, as the case may be. So review methodology. The methodology, so this is not a research. So even if it were to be a research, so the method would have been qualitative. But the methodology used for this presentation and preparation for this presentation is to define objectives. So which would be to identify the primary goal of the policy or regulation within the Nigerian context. Then analyze provisions. So break down the key requirements, standards, and legal obligations included in the text. Then assess relevance. So this is the methodology we'll be using. We've talked about this. We've talked about the difference between policy and regulation. So we've talked about mentioned the many regulations that we have and where we can find them. So the policy section. We have the National Policy on Environment 2016. You can also find a copy. You can download a copy of National Policy on Environment 2016 from NESRIA website. And the objective is to ensure environmental protection and sustainable resource use. Key provisions. Polluter pays principle. The polluter pays principle is such that the companies or individuals, households that generate waste, whether municipal solid waste, industrial waste, special waste, or hospital waste, the person producing the waste is also responsible in making sure that that waste is recovered, recycled, or managed sustainably. Then another part of polluter pays principle is also that the people that are generating this waste have the responsibility to make financial contributions. So this is particular reference to companies, and this also brings us to EPR, as you may later see it as the extended producer's responsibility. So the producers are also responsible. Sorry for the interruption. So the producers are also responsible for the management of the waste they put in the market. So they put a product in the market, not that they put waste in the market. They put the product in the market, but after the consumers must have taken the content of the product, sometimes the container for that product becomes waste. So this policy is saying that the producers, those that put these waste, these products in the market, are also responsible in ensuring that the waste at the end of the day are recovered and managed sustainably. Now, the another key provision is public participation. Now, before, waste management used to be a government thing. So people were nonchalant about getting involved in waste management, but waste management is everyone's responsibility. So long as you are living, you are eating, you are drinking, you are producing waste. And so long as you're producing waste, you should also be involved in management of that waste. Your cooperation is needed, because if you leave it for the government alone, without the cooperation of individual members, then it will be difficult for waste to be managed. So the policy also provides public participation. Then it also creates room for institutional coordination. Now, it's a national policy, and there are state policies on environment. And then the policy creates room for coordination and harmonization, ensuring that the Federal Ministry of Environment, NESRIA, the state ministries of environment, state waste management agencies or authorities, and they all work together to ensure that our environment is adequately protected. Then it also creates room for environmental monitoring and reporting. This also falls in the purview of NESRIA and other state agencies that ensure that companies and individuals take adequate responsibility and do what they are supposed to do in the environment. Now, an aspect of environment, when the video was playing before we started this session, so you see that our water bodies are being polluted, and it is also sad to know that there are still some companies out there that channel their waste into the rivers. Some of them, these are underground pipes buried that it is difficult for the government to identify that these companies are doing this. Some of them, the workers may not even know that during the construction or the building of these factories, that their waste are channeled to the river, but they're actually polluting the environment and polluting the water body. So environmental monitoring and reporting is very, very important, and this policy makes provision for that as well. So why this policy matters? So environmental, the policy on environment provides a variation framework. So it identifies governance weaknesses, then anchors all other environmental instruments. So it's like the mother instrument that every other policy or regulation has to build on. Then under identifying governance weaknesses, so it made provision for that elaborate stakeholder engagement, knowing that the federal government cannot handle everything. So it still boils down to state, and it made provision for the state to play active role in ensuring a sustainable environment. Now, National Policy on Plastic Waste Management 2020. So this is the second policy we are looking at. And this policy is very important because it has been there since 2020, but the implementation guideline for National Policy on Plastic Waste Management was launched in November 2025. So I was there. I mean, that implementation guideline was launched. So it wasn't enough. So the question people were asking, was it that, okay, since this policy has been in place, does it mean that it has not been implemented, or we're waiting for implementation guideline for the policy to be implemented? But the policy has been implemented. But it's just that after the launch of the implementation guideline, the implementation will now be more serious. So the objective is to provide framework for sustainable plastic waste management. So when we talk about those wastes that are actually part of what causes environmental problems, we often mention plastics. Yeah, plastics are widely recycled. We still have plastics that are difficult to recycle. An example is multi-layered plastics. So there are some plastics that are difficult to recycle because of the type of plastic or other materials that were used in the production of that particular plastic. So plastic is still a problem. Plastic is still polluting our environment despite the effort to recycle more plastics. So key provisions. One of the key provisions is life cycle approach. So this policy tries to ensure that the manufacturers ensure that, okay, that plastic you're producing, if it cannot be recovered and recycled adequately, then there has to be a life cycle for it. So you have to you need to use materials that can decompose, so that the plastic won't have to stay in the environment for too long a time. Then the circular economy transition. So circular economy is opposed to linear economy, and for a very long time, countries of the world, including Nigeria, have all transitioned to circular economy. So I don't think there's any country that is still operating with a linear economy model of make, use, dispose now. So we are now make, use, reuse, recycle, repurpose. We have transitioned from the 3 hours to 5 hours, now to 7 hours. So this policy makes provision for circular economy transition. And I think we as a country, we are on the right track. Now, stakeholder roles defined. This National Policy on Plastic Waste Management defines stakeholder roles. A typical example is it mandates operators in the plastic recycling value chain to ensure that before they begin their operation, they do environmental impact assessment. And for small-scale businesses that are already in operation, they also do their environmental management plan. Now, making provisions or hiring a consultant to get these documents is not enough. So you're expected to submit these documents to adequate stakeholders, so the appropriate stakeholders like NESRIA. And good, we have it now that NESRIA has office in all the states of the federation. Then you're also expected to submit those documents to your state waste management authority. Now, another stakeholder role that is defined is that the players in the plastic waste management sector are also expected to register with NESRIA. They are also expected to obtain operational license from their state waste management authority. Then they are also expected to report, give monthly activity report to NESRIA and to the state waste management authority. So another key provision is funding, incentives, and monitoring. So funding can come in the form of EPR. So if the companies make their EPR contributions, then this can also be used to subsidize the cost of recycling these plastics from the environment. The monitoring, the state waste management authorities and NESRIA in different states are mandated to monitor the activities of people that operate within this sector. And that operation is not just for those that are trying to recycle, even those that produce the products that come to waste at the end of its life cycle. National Policy on Plastic Waste Management 2020 has to focus on plastic-specific challenges. So we have plastic-specific challenges, of which I've mentioned like multi-layered plastic, and it is from the National Policy on Plastic Waste Management 2020 that provisions were also made for the ban on single-use plastic. So in that document, it made provision for the ban on single-use plastic. Then there was provision for a phase out and phase down of some problematic single-use plastics like styrofoams. So links waste to economy and livelihoods. So the policy did not treat waste as 100% problem. Yeah, waste is a problem if we collectively decide not to do anything about it. But if you want to do something about it, waste can also help in boosting the economy and livelihoods. And I know that at the Recycler Association of Nigeria, most of our members are employers of labor. Some have more than 200 employees under them. And these businesses are paying tax. These businesses are also helping to boost the economy. Now, it promotes collaboration across actors. So this was also mentioned in National Policy on Environment. So there is need for collaboration. And this collaboration, I wouldn't say that we have 100%, we have achieved it 100%. It is work in progress. Yeah, in some states you see significant collaboration between Nigeria, Ministry of Environment, State Waste Management Authority or board, while in some states it is still work in progress. But it is good for us to know that there is need for this collaboration across actors and collaboration also with the private sector. So EPR guidelines for packaging. Now, this is not a policy and it is not a regulation. So it is a guideline. Now, the EPR guidelines for packaging sector 2025 was also launched in Abuja in November 2025. Now, it is important because if we have adequate extended producer responsibility, it will help in recovering of recyclables. It will also help in subsidizing the cost of recovering these materials. Then the aggregators, waste pickers, and recyclers will be able to do more because the producers are becoming more responsible for the waste they generate. Now, the objective is to operationalize extended producer responsibility. Key provisions, producer responsibility for end of life. So we've talked about this, that the producers are also responsible for the end of life cycle of their products. They are responsible in recovering these products when they become waste. It introduces the PRO system. So PRO is the Producer Responsibility Organization. So the PRO system in Nigeria is also very important because it is the PRO that mediates between the producers and value chain players. Value chain players are waste pickers, aggregators, and recyclers. A PRO also liaises between producers and government agencies. Now, in the packaging sector, the PRO is FIBRA, the Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance. So that's the PRO for the packaging sector. So we still have the PROs for for electronic waste, which is EPRON, E-Waste Producer Responsibility Organization. That's for electronic waste. So we have the PRO for battery, Alliance for Responsible Battery Recycling, ARBR, as the PRO for battery recycling. There are other PROs that are springing up. There is work in progress to have PRO for carton and paper. There is the work in progress to also have PRO for what is it called? Scrap vehicles. Yeah, there's work in progress to have PRO for scrap vehicles. But so the PRO role is very, very important. The another key provision is collection and recycling targets. Now, this guideline ensures that there is support. There is support for aggregators, there is support for recyclers. Then in turn, they are expected to meet a certain threshold of collection and recycling targets. Then it also establishes the EPR fee mechanism. The EPR fee mechanism before, when EPR or FIBRA was being formalized, I think from 2018, it was as if that it was voluntary for some of these companies to get onboarded. But with the launch of this guideline, it is no longer voluntary. It is mandatory that producers pay a certain fee as the EPR fee. Data and registry system. So this guideline also ensures that data of what is recovered, what is collected, what is recycled is available. So why EPR is central? EPR is like the engine, is a system driver. It provides structured financing by injecting the much needed capital into the waste management value chain via producer fees. So imagine a scenario whereby maybe let's just use 70% or 60, even 50% of the producers in Nigeria paying for the recovery of their products at the end of its life cycle. So I think that would be this will go a long way in subsidizing the cost of recycling. So it is also central in value chain connection. So the EPR forges formal links between manufacturers, aggregators, and the recycling industry. Then it sets measurable obligations So the APR sets clear targets for collection and recycling that can be tracked and audited. Now, this is also important because the companies that are making these financial contributions also need to know that, okay, this is what is recovered at the end of the month, or this is what is recovered at the end of the year. So having something that can be tracked and audited is very, very important. Now we are moving over to regulations. Regulations. We have talked about policy. We also talked about guidelines. Policy defines direction, while regulation defines compliance. Now, it is very, very important. If Nigeria is coming to your office to see whether you are doing the right thing or not, they are going to judge you by the regulations. But the policy will point to the direction that, okay, this is where we are going to as a country in managing plastic. This is where we are going to in making sure that our environment is sustainable and good for us to live, while regulation defines compliance. So regulations answer what must be done, who is responsible, what happens if not complied. So this is important for us to, especially some of us that are playing in the private sector. It is important for you to know that regulations answers what must be done. So what must be done has to be done. It should be done. Who is responsible for doing that? What happens if you don't comply? If you don't comply, necessarily come and see your office or your facility in some cases, or you pay penalties. So out of the 35 regulations that are gazetted, for the purpose of this presentation, we can't go through all 35 of them. I also mentioned that you can have access to all of them from Nigeria website. We have selected few regulations, about 4 of them, to discuss. So the first here is Sanitation and Waste Control Regulations 2019. The objective is to promote sustainable waste management and sanitation. You know, in different states of the Federation, they have sanitation days. I think Lagos is doing market sanitation day. I think it's on a Thursday. That markets are the people that are selling or operating within the market are expected to clean the markets within the first few hours before they open their businesses. In some other states, it is for the last Saturday of the month. I know Abia State is last Saturday of the month. Imo State should also be last Saturday of the month. So some states have different days for sanitation. One usually once in a month, while some is maybe a few hours per week. The key provisions is ban on indiscriminate dumping. So this regulation bans indiscriminate dumping. So if you dump your waste indiscriminately, there is fine or penalty for it. It mandates waste segregation. So the question is, are we here yet? No, we are not there. Many of us on this call, many of us that are listening, still do not separate or segregate our waste at home. So the regulation mandates waste segregation, but most of us do not do it. But just know that even if nobody is coming to your house to ensure that you segregate your waste, it is the best thing you can do as a contribution to environmental sustainability. So you're expected to segregate your waste at home. Now, we from the aggregation and recycling sector, it makes the work easy. Now imagine you have your plastic inside a container. You have your food waste inside the same container. You change your baby's diaper, you still put it inside a container. You have leftover soup, you still pour it inside a container. Now it becomes difficult to recover the solid waste that are recyclable. So it has automatically contaminated the plastics that are there. And even when you now recover it, you need more energy to recover it. You need more energy to wash it. So you need more energy to recycle it. So that your small action is also contributing to problems in the society. So if we are using more energy in the recycling process, it pollutes the environment more. So because if some companies are using diesel to run their generators, it means that they are going to run for longer hours, which see how that your the action you neglected to take is now contributing to a major environmental problem. So that's how our operations, our actions within the environment are all linked together. So it mandates waste segregation, then licensing of waste operators. So the private sector that operates within the waste management value chain, whether you are into waste disposal or you are into recycling or you're managing organic waste, you are expected to get operational license from your state waste management authority from Nigeria. So this is also very important because you see many people that are operating within this sector, they do not have adequate licensing. Responsibility on waste generators. So it boils back to what we discussed about the APL and the polluter pays principle. Those that generate waste are also responsible in managing that waste. Effluent and hazardous waste control. We have hazardous waste control. We have hazardous waste. So we have effluent waste. Effluent waste example is the fumes from your moving car, from your exhaust, the exhaust of your car. So this regulation makes provision on how that can be adequately managed or reduced. So hazardous waste, if you go to the south side, specifically Port Harcourt, you will see that there is gas flaring. So that continuous gas flaring from January to December is polluting the environment. It's polluting the environment in a way that we are not able to measure yet, but it's causing a big problem for us and for the global community. This regulation establishes basic waste discipline, legal responsibility for waste, foundations for later regulations. Then the second one we are looking at is the Battery Control Regulations 2024. So this is new. And this is also new because the battery technology is improving and we are seeing more batteries in our homes. From dry cell batteries to now we have solar batteries that are becoming more popular. Even the solar battery, we used to have the gel battery, tubular battery. Now lithium battery is becoming more popular and more homes are going to be having these batteries. But at the end of the day, after a few years, these batteries will come to the end of life cycle. So what happens to the batteries? Even the small batteries, the ones you can see in this picture, what happens to them? How do you dispose them? How do you manage them? So the key provision for the Battery Control Regulation 2024 is registration of collectors and transporters. So the regulation wants to ensure that there are non-collectors who are licensed, who have received adequate training to collect and transport battery, because battery can actually explode when on transit. So, but if you do not operate with the necessary safety guidelines, you can cause problem for your community. Then the next provision is take back obligations. So there are companies that produce these batteries. They're expected to be able to take them back because the components of these batteries can also be recycled and used to produce another battery. Producer responsibility, this is also linked to take back obligation. So if a company is not maybe domiciled in Nigeria or the company does not have a recycling arm to recycle the batteries, then the company is also expected to take responsibility by making EPR contributions, by paying certain amount of money for the recovery or for another company to help in the recycling of these batteries. Storage and transport standards. So it makes provision for how batteries can be stored and how they can be transported safely. Recycling and reporting requirements. We also touch this. So this regulation ensures that batteries are adequately recycled, and what is recycled is also reported. And the next regulation is the Healthcare Waste Control Regulations 2021. So this is also new. I know from the people that I work with, we always tell ourselves that hospital waste is a special waste. So it's not a waste that you just go and pick and start recycling now. It's a special waste. So for you to manage hospital waste, you need also a special license. I need to make some safety provisions in place because the PET bottle from hospital can actually infect another person. Depending, for example, if someone that has a tuberculosis use that bottle to drink, and you that is recycling, you open that bottle and you're trying to maybe manually remove the label, the person can also get infected. So hospital waste is a special waste, and there should be adequate care in managing this waste. So key provisions, waste management plans required. So hospital waste should not be mingled with general municipal solid waste from homes. So there should be a waste management plan for hospital waste. Then segregation and labeling. So hospital waste are also supposed to be segregated adequately and labeled adequately. Licensing of facilities. So even if you have a waste management license, so you have a license to manage waste, manage municipal solid waste, or you have a license, operational license to set up a recycling facility, you need another license to be able to manage hospital waste. There is ban on open dumping and burning of hospital waste. Then there is also it makes provision to ensure that personal protective equipment, that PPEs, are always used in managing hospital waste. The next is electronics sector regulations. So electronic waste regulations. The key objective is to control pollution from electrical and electronic waste. A little bit of background. If you can see the image here, you see that you are seeing computers, you are seeing televisions. So some of these products are not manufactured in Nigeria. So the question will now be, how can we hold the producer responsible for managing this waste? So if you cannot hold the producer responsible, we hold the importers responsible. If you hold the importers responsible, then it is now their work to go and get their money back from the producers. Because in the countries where these things are manufactured, the producers are also paying for the EPR scheme. So that part of that money can be shared based on the quantity that is imported into the country. Now, key provisions, life cycle regulation. So from cradle to grave. Before now, the electronic waste was, I wouldn't say 100% informally managed, but it was dominated by the informal sector. So there were no formalized, licensed recyclers, but presently we have formal recyclers that have the necessary equipment to manage electronic waste, and they also manage this waste responsibly. So before now, you see all these the TVs and old computers at the dump site, but it is no longer the case. That there is a value attached to the waste, and people are also helping to recover what is useful. Then EPR and take back system. I've also talked about that when I mentioned that some of the producers are not in Nigeria. They don't produce in Nigeria. So it is the responsibility of the major importers to be onboarded on the APR scheme if the producers are not in Nigeria. So here again, if you want to recycle electronic waste, you also need license specifically tied to the recycling of electronic waste. There is also a ban on improper disposal. So this is applicable to every waste. There is a ban on improper disposal of every waste. So it is also applicable to electronic waste. Record keeping and monitoring. So what is recovered, what is recycled, there should be a record for it. Now, when we talk about electronic waste, from my own experience, I always tell people that there is electronic waste in all our homes. So if you see someone, the person has an old phone, the phone is bad, they just dump it there. Get a new one, the old one is still there. So that's the electronic waste, and it's still there. So you have an old laptop, you have an old charger, they're still there. Even the bulbs, the light bulbs that we use, they're all electronic waste. The wires, the USB cables, they're all electronic waste, and these things are supposed to be managed responsibly. So you that is participating, that is listening, know that you have electronic waste around you, and you're also expected to, when you want to get rid of them, don't just dispose them into the general waste bin or general waste unit. You try to make it available to licensed recyclers, licensed aggregators within your vicinity. Recommendations. You have policy, institutional, and value chain. Now, we have the policies, we have the institutions. We've talked about the institutions, we've talked about Nigeria, Ministry of Environment, State Ministry of Environment, State Waste Management Authority. Then we have value chain players. And in this case, I will include all of us, even the producers, the users of this product. We are all value chain players. Then aggregators, the recyclers, we are value chain players, because even the user, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, it becomes difficult to recover. So it is important that all of us work together to achieve a sustainable environment. Policy level recommendations. Now back to enforcement. Strengthen enforcement mechanism and compliance monitoring. We always say in Nigeria that we have the relevant policies. We actually have the policies. I was doing research in Kano State, and Kano has adequate policies, for example. But the problem, as with other states, is also enforcement. So many of the provisions in the policies and regulations are not enforced. Then the value chain players are not even aware that these things have been stipulated, and some of them are not aware that there are penalties if you do not do the right thing. So enforcement is important, and before enforcement, making sure that there is adequate stakeholder engagement and that people know about these policies, as we are doing now, is also important, because it's when you know, then you'll be able to follow the guidelines and the provisions of the policies. The next will be alignment. So there is need to align federal and state regulations for consistency. So there have been cases whereby, so from the federal regulations, for example, environmental management plan lasts for 3 years. So after 3 years, you are expected to do a new one. But I've seen a state whereby their own provision states that environmental management plan lasts for 2 years. So there is no policy alignment in that regard. Now, if you are submitting, because you're not supposed to have environmental management plan for the state and also have for the federal agency. It is supposed to be one document. So you can no longer, you can't submit to Nigeria in your state and it says 3 years. And you now submit to your state Ministry of Environment or State Waste Management Authority and it says 2 years. So there is the misalignment. So there's need for this alignment to have regulatory consistency. So it is such that if, for example, a state wants to have a policy on environment, they will have to also read the national policy on environment to ensure that whatever they are making provision for their state is consistent with what is already provided in the national policy. Then they can now address their state-specific needs. Then incentives. Introduce fiscal incentives, tax breaks, and duty waivers. So the environmental sector is often not given the necessary attention. Yeah, we have the country, we have been giving agriculture the necessary attention. We have been giving consumer goods, but the environmental sector, because we have agricultural waste, we have organic waste. At the end of the day, even the consumer goods, we are giving attention that we are saying, okay, if you're buying this, you're not going to pay VAT. They still come back as waste. And if we do not collectively address some of the environmental challenges, it becomes a problem for everyone. It becomes a problem for future generations. So there is not much attention that is being paid to the environmental sector by the authority, especially when it comes to tax breaks and duty waivers. So we're expecting that in the new tax reform, that certain recyclables should be exempted from VAT, but that was not done. Maybe that is still work in progress, but it means that they didn't really pay adequate attention to it. But it should be paid attention to. So if you're able to have adequate enforcement, have policy alignment, have necessary incentives, it will help in attracting responsible investors. Now we have institutional level recommendations. There is need to improve coordination between Nigeria and state agencies, and as well as PROs. So we've talked about this. The PROs are the producer responsibility organizations. So there should be adequate coordination between them and Nigeria, between them and state agencies, even between them and value chain players, because the regulations are provided to regulate both the activities of value chain players and the activities of producers. The monitoring, there is need to build monitoring and data systems. So availability of data is still a problem, and we at the Recyclers Association of Nigeria, we recently launched a data platform, and we've been discussing with Nigeria. Nigeria also wants to launch a data platform, but we are working to harmonize data collection so that there won't be duplication of data. So it is important for adequate monitoring and data system to be in place. Capacity. So there is need to enhance capacity and accountability. So the provisions of these regulations are there. The provisions of the policies are there. The people that are in charge of that have been saddled with the responsibility to ensure that these provisions are carried out also need to learn about the provisions. Because if you know what the regulations are saying, you'll be able to share with others, then you'll be able to also enforce it adequately. Then accountability is also important. As you enforce, then there should be accountability both to the government and to the society at large. These also, when the policies are adequately coordinated, adequate monitoring is in place, then adequate capacity building, then it will also attract responsible investors. Then value chain level recommendations. There is need for infrastructure. So we do not have adequate recycling infrastructure in Nigeria. So there is need for adequate recycling infrastructure. There is need for transfer loading stations. There is need for material recovery facilities. So when we have adequate recycling infrastructure, it also helps in the recovery of materials. Then aggregators also need support with finance and support with equipment. So recycling equipment are usually expensive, and some aggregators may not be able to afford some of this equipment, even despite many years of operation, because it is not a highly profitable area. So it becomes difficult for them to scale their operations. So there is need for financial support and equipment support. Then there is also need for integration. So integrate informal sector actors effectively. So without the work of the informal sector in Nigeria, adequate recovery of recyclables will be difficult. And this cuts across all the recyclables, including battery, electronic waste, plastics, metals, glass, paper, and carton. So the role of the informal sector is very, very important. And from time to time, the informal sector should receive training since we are still playing at this level. Then when we now upgrade our waste management chain to source separation, then we know that, okay, the system may not need many of the informal sector, but for now, the informal sector play a very important role. So policy versus reality. During the course of this presentation, I've shared some field level insights. If there is need to share more or during the question and answer session, then I think I'll be able to share more field level insights. Then there are implementation challenges. One is collection gap, informal sector dominance, weak policy integration. Now, it's not, there is collection gap, then there is also data gap, because it is difficult to get data from those that play within the informal sector. Then there is also infrastructure deficit. So limited sorting centers, limited machines for operation. Then there is financing constraints, lack of structural finance and fiscal incentives. So some of these have been explained already. Then field level challenges, enforcement. There is weak enforcement as we have it. One of the meetings with Nigeria, which I also agree with them, Nigeria says that if they embark on adequate enforcement, so most of the people that operate within the recycling value chain will go out of business. And I agree with them, because most of the operators, most of the aggregators, even most of the waste pickers, they are not doing what they are supposed to do. You will see people that are working without personal protective equipment. So if Nigeria should do adequate enforcement, people will sit up, even if they don't go out of business, but at least they will sit up to do the right thing. Maybe after traceability, weak data systems across the value chain. Yes, this is a general problem. It is also a problem that is arising from source separation, because even we have adequate source separation and we have a vehicle that is picking up, let's say, plastics or recyclables, it is easy for that vehicle to pick those things and go to the weight bridge. Okay, we know that from this street on this day, Wednesday, this vehicle picked up maybe 20 tons of recyclables. So traceability is a challenge, and it is also a problem that all of us can collectively address by doing the right thing. And integration as fragmented coordination between stakeholders. So we've talked about this. The need for harmonization, the need for stakeholders to work together to achieve common goal. So when these are adequately implemented, it will also attract responsible investors. We have key takeaways. Nigeria, we have policies, we have regulations. They are there. So they already exist. Some people think that we do not have. Yes, we have. So there's shift towards life cycle and sector-specific regulations. Like I mentioned, we have 35 regulations that addresses specific needs and challenges in the environmental sector. Then EPR is central to financing and coordination efforts. So the EPR sector is also developing. So we're hoping that companies, producers will embrace the EPR scheme without creating bottlenecks. With this, I thank you for your attention and also for listening. And I hope that we can have a little bit of discussions, questions, and answer session. If you do not have questions, maybe I'll ask you. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kajitan. Hello, sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So I think I can stop sharing, right? Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you.
Yes, yes, please. Thank you very much. That was very, very insightful. I really, really appreciate how you took time to teach us about this very, very important aspect of recycling and taking care of our environment. You know, many times, and especially for young people, we like freedom. We like to do it the way we want to do it. But then we need to understand that there are policies and there are regulations, and this was very, very important. Do you agree with me, guys? Do you agree with me that this was very, very important and that Mr.
Yes,
Kaji
yeah.
justice? In the chat, yes, yes. So, Mr. Kajitan, they are saying, thank you. It was well explained. So we are going to, I'm sure you have questions. So if you have questions, this is the right time to begin to put them in the chat. Because we'll be attending to your questions soon. Okay. So, Mr. Kajitan, how do you want us to go about it? Do we take it one by one? Or?
Yes, we can take it one by one so that we don't skip anything.
Okay. Please, I am waiting for your questions. But I was taking note, and I really want to appreciate our facilitator. I understood through these lectures that there are over 35 regulations. Over 35 regulations in this sector, and that alone shows that we need to not just be passionate about creating the change, but we also need to put our house in order. We need to learn about the way to go about it. Yes. So we have a lot of homework to do. And another thing, that stood out for me was the fact that the PROs you talked about for battery, for e-waste. I didn't even know about e-waste and then the plan to include the carton sector, and of course the plastic. That's also very, very interesting. And also very important that if you want to be part of this sector, it is a must that you have to register with NESRIA, and you also need to be sending reports. So these are very, very key takeaways, very important. As a producer, you are responsible for the end of life of your product. Very key. Also, there is need for adequate recycling infrastructure. Wow, 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 wow. And lastly, for me, the fact that most people in the ecosystem are not doing the right thing according to NESRIA. Wow. For me, I don't really see a challenge there for us. What I see is opportunity for all of us in this workshop. It's an opportunity because now you've learned about the regulations, and then you can start doing the right thing. Okay. Questions? Okay. How can we report improper disposals? How can we report improper proposals? Yes, Mr. Kajitan.
Is that how can we report improper disposal or proposal?
Improper disposal.
How can we report improper disposals? Okay. So the best way to report improper disposal is to report to your state waste management authority. Then there are some states that have dedicated lines. I know Lagos used to have a dedicated line. And when you see someone throw waste out of a moving vehicle, you call this line or you get a picture and send it to that line. Anambra State currently to have a dedicated line for reporting improper disposal. So, but in places where there are no dedicated lines, is to report to the State Waste Management Authority, because they are the ones that are implementing and also in charge, with the responsibility of managing waste within the city. Then there are some states also that have different agencies that are working to protect the environment. For example, in Lagos, they have LOMA. We also have LASEPA. I think they have a lot of environmental agencies, but they just identify the particular one that speaks directly to that particular need. If it is waste management and someone disposing, then it has to be LOMA. So it's better to report to the State Waste Management Authority where there is no dedicated line.
Okay. Another question from Joy Ekoma says, what are the processes of how do we, I think she's trying to ask how we process electronic waste.
Okay. So, Joy said, my question is, you said that for battery control regulations, one requires license, but who give those abokis on the road license to pick those kind of waste? Isn't that wrong? So like when I explained about the role of the informal sector and the role of the formal sector. So the informal sector, they don't have license to operate, but the formal sector, they have license. So for you to operate within the formal sector, it means that first of all, your business is registered with CSC. You have a tax identification number. So these are the first processes. Then you now register with NESRIA and also register with your state waste management authority. So these are the processes. Then if you're an informal sector, also, if it is e-waste in particular, you're also expected to register with e-waste producer responsibility organization. If you go to APRON website, you'll be able to see companies that are registered with them and their locations. Now, when you get all these registrations and permits, then you can now start collecting e-waste. Now, for the informal sector that are picking waste, they are not registered. but they are also, because they play a critical role. You can't just wake up and abolish it, because if you do, the rate of recovery will fall. But they are expected to make available whatever they are collecting from the environment to the formal sector, those that have the license to aggregate, license to transport, and license to recycle. So the advocates, like you mentioned, they don't recycle. They only is to collect and make these things available. But sometimes they also make it available to those that don't have license. Because in the waste sector, it is such that the highest bidder takes it all. The one who pays the higher money, the waste will come to you. Then so the process of electronic waste, the recycling process, you have to begin with dismantling. You dismantle. They identify the different components. The PCB board, printed wiring boards, what we usually call motherboards. They contain valuable components. It's a motherboard of phones and laptops. They contain gold, they contain silver, they contain some valuable metals that there are specialized machines for the recovery of these metals. During the Olympics, I think it was Japan that hosted the Olympics. So all the medals that were used during the Olympics were medals that were the gold, the silver, the bronze. They were all recovered from recycled materials from electronic waste. So they are valuables in this way. Just that the cost and the process of recovering them is high, and there are special dedicated machines for doing this. So what type of plastic are planned to be banned? Generally, single-use plastics, but not all single-use plastics are to be banned. There will be phase out and phase down. So what is at the phase out stage is styrofoams. Remember when Lagos State government banned styrofoams? So in the regulations and policies, styrofoams are to be banned. Then there is another regulation that is likely going to come out. It is not yet out, so I cannot make reference to it, though I know the provisions of that regulation. Is regulation the plastic waste management, though. There it specifically mentioned flexibles below 40 microns are also supposed to be banned. So the black nylons that maybe they use in packaging small things when you buy them, those ones that are very flexible and light, they are below 40 micron. They will also be banned. But until that regulation come into place, we can now adequately speak about it. But there are some that are banned. But the example that the one that I'm sure that is already gone is styrofoams. Another question here is from Obakemi. If I understand you very well, it means I must get a license going to place into plastic waste recycling. Yes, you are. If you want to do the right thing, you need to get operational license. That you need to register with Nigeria on the NESPAM platform. There's a NESPAM platform, a platform for this registration, and there are certain things you're expected to provide for you to be able to register. Because even those that manage waste also produce waste. Even those that manage waste also can embark in they can embark in reckless management of their residual waste, because as you recycle waste, you also have waste that you need to manage. So those waste that are residual waste, so you need to also provide in your environmental management plan how you are going to manage them. So when Nigeria look at those things, they can now give you operating license. Then you are also expected to get that permit from your state waste management authority. So it is necessary. Even if we have people that are operating in the sector without license, you know that those people are not doing the right thing, and they are not going to be the yardstick for our own operation. But some of these licenses or permits, in some states, they are not cumbersome, they are not difficult to get. Why some? There may be bottlenecks. This question is not clear from
I
Bakemi.
Liz, can you take the last question?
What is it? Which one is the last question?
Okay. Okay, I think it's a repetition. It's a repetition. So
so there is a question here. The one I'm saying as the last question is at the moment, is there enough public awareness for EPR to succeed beyond policy documents? So after the implementation guideline was launched, Nigeria embarked on zonal stakeholder engagements to let producers know about EPR. And I'm sure that there has been a stakeholder engagement in Kano State, targeting Northwest. There has been a stakeholder engagement in Owerri, Imo State, targeting Southeast. There is a stakeholder engagement scheduled for Lagos. I don't think it has been done, but if it is not done, it's already scheduled for Lagos. So Nigeria is embarking on stakeholder engagements in different zones. They may not be able to have this engagement in all the states, but they are beginning with zones, geographical zones, to let people know about EPR, let producers know about EPR. Then they will also embark on social media engagements so that companies will know about EPR. Yes, there is stakeholder engagement that is ongoing. That's the answer to that question.
Yes. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Because of time, I know that our participants, have learned a lot, and they are eager to know more. Because of time, we have another session, so we will just we are sorry, but a wrap. Thank you so much, sir. Participants, I'm sorry, okay, because of time, because we need to move, to another session. Yes. Through ADEV, I'm sure that Mr. Kajitan would always be here to attend to other questions in future. So I believe this is true.
Hopefully.
Okay, so thank you so much on behalf of the management and leadership of ADEV. We are grateful to you for giving us your time, and this is something that we cannot pay for. Participants, did you pay for this? No, you didn't. And so thank you so much. God bless you. We are very, very, very grateful. And we also want to let you know that because of probably other engagement that you may have, please, you can anytime you are free, you are relieved.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity once again. So I'm glad to share my experience from the sector. And good work you are doing. Keep it up. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Please, let's celebrate Mr. Kajitan. Please celebrate him, appreciate him. So we are going to move straight into the next session. Please, can you stretch? Can you stretch? Stretch. We are here for serious business, so I know that some of us are a bit tired, but just stretch, and sit back as we move ahead. But can you, if you like, you can tell me what was your highlights of that presentation. Let's see it in the chat. So please, we are going to have information. Many people have been asking about attendance and some other questions about the fellowship. Please stay tuned. We are going to have thing that you need to know. All right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the speaker. I would take his profile on Notion. Is a dynamic through fellowship, accelerator, and outreach programs. In his commitment to a green future, Mayowa leads the Center for Climate Leadership, Environmental Innovation and Inclusion, Clean Africa, and also advances the Greening Education Framework as an active member of the UNESCO Greening Education Partnership, launching greening initiatives that have birthed over 30 green projects in 7 African countries. Drawing on his decade-long background in urban planning, Mayowa has played a pivotal role in sustainable urbanism and youth-led advocacy. As the 2025 Contact Point Cities Working Group, Yongo UNFCCC, he contributes to youth global climate action, particularly shaping inclusive, resilient, and sustainable cities. Notably, he co-developed Lagos Breathing Spaces for Clean Air, a documentary produced in partnership with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, C40 Cities, Y Labs, and Urban Better, highlighting the urgent need for healthier and more livable cities. His work is guided by the vision of a world where development, nature, and humanity thrive in harmony. Please help me make welcome the Director, Development Hub of ADEV Africa, Mr. Mayowa Onioshun. Celebrate him, celebrate him, celebrate him. Welcome, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Prince. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, depending on your time zone and where you're joining from at this moment. I must confess that I've had a great time listening to the previous speaker. It has really been a great time on this section.
Sorry, sir. Can you, I think your audio is a bit low from here.
Okay, no problems. Let's enhance that a little. Okay. Yes, you should be able to hear me well now.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So it's been a long morning, and I hope everyone is enjoying the session right until now. So let's just go right into it. We'll be going right into it now, into the second session. And we'll quickly be looking at green buildings and sustainable construction. So if you allow me, I would share my screen. Share my screen now. Give me a minute, please. Okay. All right. Please confirm when you can see my screen, please.
It's not yet up.
Okay. Coming. Give me a second. I should get it up.
Yes, it's up now.
All right, thank you very much, Prince. You confirm that my screen is up, right?
Yes, very, very visible.
Okay, fantastic. So we'll go right to it. So at this hour, we will be looking at green building and sustainable construction. And I like to believe that this section is not new to many of us, especially for participants on this call. Okay, problems. Yeah. So I like to believe that this section is not totally a new section to many of you on the call at this hour. I want to believe that before now, you must have heard about the word green building and probably even heard about sustainable construction. However, if you have not heard about it before, I think it's your lucky morning where and when we'll be talking about this amazing topic today. So real quick, just to give it a refreshing start, can I have any of the participants share with me in the chat what you perceive as a green building? When you are asked what a green building is, what would you define a green building as? Anybody, please. So I'm still checking.
So someone says they only know about greenhouse. Mr. Mayo, why are you there? Saida says green building is a sustainable material. All right, guys, keep it coming. I think our facilitator has the technical glitch, but keep those ideas coming. Suleiman says a green building, also called a sustainable building, is a structure that is designed, built, and used in a way that reduces harm to the environment and saves resources. Habib Umar says green technology building is the process of making adequate building planning to improve the quality of the environment and prevent any building incidents. Great. Green building describes the green environment around buildings made possible with planting of trees and flora. This is from Abua Michael. Thank you, Abua Michael. Please,
Okay,
can you
Prince.
hear
So,
me?
yes, can you hear me, Prince?
Okay, welcome, sir.
Okay,
Welcome
thank you
back.
very much. So, I could also see the contributions that are being made, and I must confess, those are amazing contributions. I love the let me say the sincerity of the person that said they have not heard the green buildings before, but I've only heard about greenhouse. Of course, greenhouse is almost getting traction lately with respect to sustainable food system and agri-tech. So, however, all attempts are great. They are great. And I think I saw one that said green building is about the afforestation for present and future well-being. Wow. Okay. And I think Emeka is saying green building is integrating eco-friendly materials into structures of the building. All right. No problems. But I think Chamberlain, it says that the practice of designing and constructing buildings in a way that uses less energy, saves water. Okay. Reduces waste and protect the environment while creating a healthy space for people. Also, Aruna says it's the designing, construction, and operating structures in ways that reduce environmental impact and improve efficiency and occupants' well-being. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, as well as Elizabeth's contribution, as well as Abdul Rashid. Yeah, all these are great and profound contributions. Of course, I can assure you that you all are not wrong with, all these contributions that you have made. So, if you have to ask a youngster, say maybe someone in their early school, students like that, maybe you ask these young folks, many times you'll be surprised that they can tell you that a green building is any building that is painted green. And also, you would agree with me that for anyone who would have that kind of perception, we cannot say that the person is totally wrong. Yes, we cannot say the person is totally wrong. However, when we define green building, we are not going to be defining green building from the perspective of color, but we'll be looking at certain parameters to use in defining green building. And that is why for this morning, well, I'm not saying that this is the best acceptable definition out there. There are several other definitions that you can come by, which are also not wrong. But for the purpose of this session, we will refer to green building as the design, the construction, operation of buildings in ways that reduces environmental harm and improve human health. So when you look at it now, this is talking about the life cycle. It's touching across the life cycle of a building from the design concept, not just design now, it touches into the construction, not just construction, and even speaks further into the operation of buildings now. And at the end of the day, what it seems to prioritize is reduction of environmental harm and improvement of human health. So how do we now consider all of these things that we're talking about? It starts from the place of material sourcing for your building. It starts from the place of what construction method and styles are adopted. What is the strategy in place for the use and maintenance of that building? And importantly, when the building has reached its the height of life, what demolition or reuse approach can we have for this same building? So if anybody asks you why we really need to talk about the concept of green building, the goal is just for us to be able to build smarter and not just bigger structures. And it's just because of how things are. Even long ago, before today, the everyday African, we've always adopted, some level of green building approach. However, maybe much more in the direction of sustainable construction. So, right about now, I want to quickly share a little difference between what a green building is and what sustainable construction is in itself. So when we talk about sustainable construction now goes beyond the building alone. Of course, when we say construction, everybody will know it's any activity that has to do with alteration, modification of the land surface. It necessarily does not mean the erection of building alone. Roads, water, every functionality that makes up that gives a good use to the facilities within the neighborhood, around the environment where you live, equates to construction. So when we're not talking about sustainable construction now, it should mean that what we are focusing on are the responsible use of materials, energy and water efficiency, waste reduction, and importantly, the long-term social and environmental benefits that we can gain from that. So based on the fact that this is RecycleUp now, a circular economy focused initiative, we will define a sustainable building as that one that gives more than it takes from the environment. Do not forget that what we are trying to shift away from is the take, make, and waste approach, which has been the common approach that has been in practice. That's like the linear economy practice, the take, make, waste approach, before we now come to the circular economy concept, which now gives us all the different R's, starting from maybe reuse, refuse, recycle, repurpose, and all of those concepts around circular economy. So that also has its way of being integrated into what a sustainable building should be. So we are saying now that when we call a particular building a sustainable one, it definitely will mean that it's giving more benefits to the environment than it is absorbing from the environment. So what are the principles of green building and sustainable construction? What are they built on? I think the first principle that we'll be talking about now will be on the efficient use of materials. Why do we necessarily have to talk about the efficient use of materials? Right about today, one of the global challenges that we face, especially in our world here, is we have entered the phase of overexploitation of resources. And that is what brought about the concept of sustainability. We all believe that if we would continue in this path of how we continue to consume the natural resources that the earth is presenting to us, there may be nothing left for the future generation to make use of. So it will mean that if we would have some other resources that the future generation will make use of, we must prioritize the efficient use of materials. So when we're not talking about the efficient use of materials now, when it relates to green building or building construction in general, it will mean that for our forest resources, timbers, woods, and ore that are used as part of construction materials, how do we make sure that we use them efficiently? Are there structures and policies in place that limit the number of maybe, or let me say that limits deforestation practices, or that even puts check in place that for every number deforested, these are the multiple numbers that must be planted, of course, to revive the same forest over a certain period of time. And not just only on the aspect of maybe timber resources and ore. We need to look to come into, I remember way back, that was what I was talking about earlier. In the early days, we do not have so much of architecture that presents the solid style as we have it today. It is in recent times that we start to have solid architecture. In the early days, our great parents, they made use of resources within their reach. And what are those resources that are within their reach? The mud, the clay, everything they have around, this is what they translate into their building materials. They cut down enough on scope 3 emissions. They do not necessarily have to go or travel a long distance to bring together the resources which they will use in their construction. Majority of the time in the olden days, every materials are sourced at about around them. So there is no any level of pollution that is attached. Okay. Of course, if there would be any pollution at that time, it could only be maybe even the noise pollution attributed to construction at that time, they are very minimal. Not about today that there will be noise pollution attributed, there will be air pollution attributed, there will be carbon pollution, several pollutions that emanate from just, construction alone. So we need to really look at how can we source materials locally for the purpose of construction. And importantly, when we talk about materials, how can we look at those materials which can easily be sourced, unlike others? Take, for example, now, I share between bamboo and the everyday timber. When you use bamboo for construction, it is more material efficient because it takes lesser time to grow bamboo than you would do when you use timber for your construction. And it is even confirmed that bamboo on its own is an efficient construction material. But maybe sometimes for convenience, or maybe because of the environmental situation, many a times some other persons, because they can't afford, they decide to use these other materials that are not efficient for construction purpose. Beyond that, how can we look at the angle of low waste construction method? As much as possible, how can we reduce waste emanating from our construction activities? Take, for example, I think one aspect of that I'm enjoying recently are the development of conversion of plastic waste into building materials. And I remember that there are about 2 organizations that I know now that have flagged buildings built totally from discarded plastic waste. In fact, directly, let me say, from PET bottles. There is the Green Growth Africa building that is located in Ibadan, which is built from start to finish with discarded plastic waste. And I remember also there's this project by, I think it's EcoCycle and ICCDI, International Center for Climate Development Initiative. I think that project was in Abuja, where they built toilets for government schools using PET bottles as well. In that manner now, it is reusing items that would readily, turn to waste and pollute the environment. So in that way now, they were necessarily not banking on sourcing new materials totally, to make their construction. As a matter of fact, because they are even using, okay, all right, no problem. No problem. Let's proceed. So because they're already using some materials that would rather be termed waste in the environment, I'm seeing a comment that is saying it's time for prayers like that. Well, I think maybe I would run, or maybe would say that for people who would have some other things to look into, we would allow them to proceed into the engagements that they have. Of course, graciously, the YouTube link is always available for you to watch. So if you have to proceed into some other engagements, I think you can run along. And I see that some of you are saying that you've exhausted your data and all of that. I'm so sorry for that. But I need you to understand that we are also using data here to make this possible for you to enjoy. So as much as we are not, our data is not funded, we may be on the same table. We may be on the same table. And for those of you that are concerned with, for those of you that are concerned with attendance, okay, I think what we'll do is your attendance will be open until 5 in the evening. That's the next 5 hours. So within that period of time, you can still work with filling up your attendance. However, for people who are able to stay, maybe what I would just do is so that we are also able to respect your time. Maybe I'll run through this section. Of course, the only thing you will miss is that it will not be it will not. Okay, I think I see Mubarak's comments here now, and I think I love it. Mubarak says, since we are not informed about the duration of the session, we can always plan and proceed and plan ahead. Yes. Okay. No problems, no worries. So what we just do is, for those that have to be on any engagements, they are free to leave. While for some of us who can be on the score, let's still be on the call. I see some persons are mistaking today for a Friday. Of course, today is not Friday, today is still Thursday. So I know it's tomorrow that, but no problems. Let's continue with the session, please. Let's continue with the session. So, as I was saying now, we were talking about low waste construction method. Instead of prioritizing more on sourcing new materials, fresh materials, maybe I call them virgin materials, can we look at the possibility of sourcing other materials to be used? And when you go online there are several examples of people who are proposing, things which would have been readily termed waste for better usage. I know there is this organization, or let me say this enterprise in Ghana, which have actually succeeded highly in transforming plastic waste into desks and chairs for use in schools. Also, I remember we have the Genji makers. The Genji makers now, they've also succeeded in transforming plastic waste into bricks for construction. So these are alternative materials that will be used. And I even think right here in Nigeria, we also have another company. I really can't remember the name right now, but I know it's owned by Madam Fedola Porunsawe. They also convert plastic waste into boards and all of those things that can also be reused also for construction. They are also efficient materials for construction. So beyond that, we also have another principle of green building that speaks to energy efficiency. As much as possible, how can we reduce the energy consumption within buildings? It is one of the core needs that the green building principle is talking about. As a matter of fact, maybe I would share with you, God helping me, or maybe it will be communicated to you in your next maybe in the resources that will be shared with you much after this session. There is this Edge certification project. There is the Edge certification project that you should be aware of if you're someone who would actually love to proceed in
Hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Mayowa. Okay, so while we are waiting for our facilitator to come back,
oh, so sorry. That was my network is in action. Okay. So I was actually speaking on energy efficiency, right? So when we talk about the energy efficiency, I want to look at the possibility of reducing energy usage in our buildings. As much as possible, do we necessarily need so much lighting within the building? No. With good ventilation and lighting design, we may necessarily not need so much energy usage within the building. Take, for example, we have some amazing buildings inside the University of Ibadan, and also in I think there is one also with good ventilation system in OHU. All right. So I'm able to speak to some that I've seen before that because they have a natural lighting and ventilation system, you necessarily don't need additional lighting within that building or within that structure. And, I realized that recent trends of construction, especially in places like Lagos, the way buildings are erected will force you to need artificial lighting and ventilation. Because of the economic premium value placed on land in Lagos, half hectare like this would have to hold about 5 to 10 stories so that the developer or the house owner is able to maximize that land. And there is no way Definitely now what will happen is the surrounding buildings, they will have no choice but to look for artificial lighting and ventilation because of the developments around them. Otherwise, the building, their own plots, there will be darkness inside the house. There will be darkness inside the house, and there will be so much heat that they will not be able to bear. So these are some of those things that we need to look into. And that is why many times you see that there is a high level of carbon generation in Lagos, because almost each flat, now because there is no good lighting and ventilation, they have to always run generator to give lightning and to use several maybe fan or air conditions within their building. And these are what accumulates all together to translate into carbon emission. It accumulates as carbon emission that now translates into global warming. And that is why sometimes you say that there is a high level of air pollution in Lagos. It's even naturally hot, even with the presence of the Atlantic Ocean. So these are some of those little things that put together, translate into all of that. So when we are talking about energy efficiency now, we are looking at how can we be using energy saving appliances within the structure. Say change your bulb from maybe all these olden 100 wattage condescending. Okay, no, let me say this. You can change your bulbs, right, to these energy saving bulbs now, which are not more than about 5 watts and all of that. They are good lightning systems that can still power enough as much as about 100 watts of the old bulb would power. Beyond that, can we convert to AC fans over DC fans? These are some ways of reducing energy dependence within the house. And if you cannot still do all of that, can we go totally into renewable energy system usage? So instead of banking on fossil powered maybe generators or some other power system, if you are able to fix up solar power, it's also a good one that would help in reducing the dependence on energy within the building. Beyond all of that, we look at water conservation as well. How do you situate your building in a way that it conserves water? One of the first things that we need to talk about is rain harvesting. It is not a new thing. It's even while it was popular here in Africa many years ago, but cultural shift and modern trends are making us lose valuable cultures. They are making us lose valuable cultures. In the times of old, houses have always been built in such a way that it has a rainwater harvesting system. And what that does is that instead of using the fresh water that would rather be used for drinking and cooking in the house, for all activities such as washing, watering the garden, cleaning, and all of that, you can use the harvested. In fact, there's a way that you can even make your harvested water well treated that it seems to serve as the cleanest water that you use within your structure. But even maybe for some places where you think you don't want to even treat it to the level of being the clean water to make use of, you can even use them for other purposes, and you'll be able to use the normal fresh water for the in-house activities as drinking, cooking, and all of that. Another thing that I think I want to talk about when it comes to water conservation is that can you build the house in a way that water is used within the building? The tech is available these days that houses are constructed to be circular. Maybe for some places, the washing basin, they make sure that there is a proper separation of lines for plumbing within the house. So that maybe the water you use for washing hands and maybe the dishes They are filtered at a central point, and this water is reused for another purpose within the building. As a matter of fact, I've learned of a particular hotel before that everything you do within that hotel, you make use of the same water. Even as bad as, say, the same water you use in the bathroom, it's the same water that you come back that is reused for some other, so it's just as circular as that. There is no introduction of any external usage. It is just a circular line within that hotel. And no one has, confirmed to say that the usage has altered their health in any form, right until this day that I know. So we also have the aspect of waste reduction. We've been talking about that for long. How can you design your building that when the building is to be disassembled, you do not have so much waste to cater for, for this kind of construction now. I know for many of us in Lagos, and I don't know, maybe in some other parts, you must have seen these container structures where people they are converting containers into homes. For that kind of construction style now, the disassembling will be it will have minimal waste generation. It can't be as much as for a house which is totally built using bricks. And not just that, we need to also understand that even the people that uses the house, what is their sustainability practices? How do they manage waste being generated within the building? Do we have a structure of waste management in place for every building? Or it is the same approach of aggregating all waste together at a collection point? If we have a waste segregation system within the structure, you realize that there will be a high level of waste reduction within that particular building lot. And importantly, this is one aspect that I so love when it comes about the LD environment. So not even only LD indoor environment this time, but both LD indoor and outdoor environment. And I remember I worked on the research in my undergraduate for enhancing public parks and playgrounds in neighborhoods. Because you realize that in recent time now, it's difficult to find a place of, a place where people come together. It's scarce these days within neighborhoods. In fact, maybe many a times now, the places where young boys come together to play football must be maybe one yet to be developed plot of someone. Maybe boys will just clear the place out and start using the place to play football. There are no playgrounds, there are no parks, neighborhood parks, and all of that. And these are some of those things that should be infused into the building and construction system, even from the urban planning perspective. But recently, because of the high economic value for land, we see that people are not able to put aside the necessary allotments for LD indoor and outdoor activities. But these are some of those properties and principles put together that gives us green building and sustainable construction. Now, when we talk about, I've been able to speak about how we see green building as a circular economy strategy, but just for relevance, I'll just allow you to be able to see the screen or take a screenshot, but I've talked about how green building is seen as a circular economy strategy. Now, why does it really matter? That is another angle that we must visit. Why is this a subject that we must talk about under RecycleUp Innovation Program? One of the first things is that it gives an opportunity for every one of us on this call today every one of us, gives us an opportunity. And what is the opportunity that is there for us? All of those things that we've talked about this morning, they are opportunities to new business for all of us. I remember at the last maybe Green Summit, organized by Green Building Council of Nigeria. The next one is coming now. One of the solutions that the particular youth submitted was that I think it was a team, if I'm not mistaken, they actually designed like a website, not a website, maybe I call it like a marketplace. They said there is no centralized marketplace for green building materials or construction materials in Nigeria about today. So they are trying to build like a Jumia of green building materials, so that the kind of materials you buy there, they are readily energy efficient building, they are minimalistic kind of items, everything that you would actually need that would give you a green building. That is the kind of things that they want to do there. And it is just only that. That's not the only opportunity that is there for us. Another opportunity that is there for us is that for all of us on this call today now, if you decide to become an edge-certified trainer today, just because of this trainer, you can go check it out. Because I don't have so much time, I was going to demo Edge for you today, but I really don't have so much time on my hand again. I was going to, that's Edge certification alone. If you're an Edge certified person and you decide to become a trainer, it's a source of income for you already. All right. And not just even now only that, if you now proceed further to become an edge designer, if you become an edge designer, the kind of person that can design energy efficient building, green building, so I was saying, if you become a edge designer, and of course, not only architects can become edge designers. In fact, this is just for you to be able to conceptualize it and even use the edge software to design. In fact, using the edge software, everybody can design a fantastic energy efficient structure. And the good thing is that the Edge app software, is one that helps you to value your building, to give you the ranking position of how much of a green building that it is. And beyond that, you can certify these buildings. In fact, you can be someone who helps people to gain certification for their buildings. You can work with developers and tell them that, no, when you want to construct, don't just build this building, the generic building style, but can I work with you so we can make this building a certified green building? When you make it a certified green building, for some people these days now, sustainability-minded people, they prefer a structure which is smart and, confirmed to be green, because they believe that by buying that kind of building or staying in that kind of building, they are contributing to the sustainability of the planet. So some people are very specific. That is the kind of structures that they want. And you can also become like an agent who markets green buildings. Your own is just to know, to confirm that truly the kind of structures or buildings I want to market, they are certified building. And there are actually 3 certification standards through the Green Building Council of Nigeria. But there is no time for us to be able to go into that today. You can check on the website of Green Building Council of Nigeria. You will be able to see some other information around this. So we've looked at the place of professional development within the green building. we've looked at the place of entrepreneurship development within the green building, and we've looked at the place of service as a system within the green building. Beyond all of that, you can also have people. It matters to people like builders and engineers. I think I saw a comment earlier where someone was saying that government has made it impossible for people with maybe environmental studies background to not be able to work with government again, and everybody's trying to diversify into something else. Well, there are several opportunities for you about today where you can actually make a living within the circular economy world. As builders and engineers, you can design lower long-term cost and higher quality projects that can get certified. And if you want to work as a policymaker, you can be there to develop policies that speaks to reduction of waste, urban waste, and infrastructure abuse. And even as it's being read, you see that even work with C40 cities and several up to around the subject of LDR living spaces. So these are some of those opportunities that you have. And as an environmental practitioner yourself, you can be someone who is an expert in climate mitigation and resource conservation, several things that you can work around. And I also decided to show you some examples of green buildings across Africa. And maybe I'll just be speaking from head now to common ones that you can find in Nigeria. Apologies to my audience, because maybe many of those I will be able to remember may be around. Okay, I remember I've mentioned one in Abuja before, I've mentioned one in Ibadan, but majority of the ones that I'm familiar with are the ones in Lagos. I know in Lagos, we have the Sterling One Foundation, that's the headquarters. Okay, their headquarters is a certified green building. We have the Nestor Tower, also in Lagos. It is a certified green building. There are several, green certified structures in Lagos. And the good thing is that as a developer or as an architect or someone who is able to conceptualize design, when you conceptualize your design, you can apply for certification for that design. And when it is submitted to be rated, to be confirmed whether it is green fit or not, looking at the parameters around development. And even for an assignment, I think one assignment I will be giving to everyone on this call today is I would love for you to try and make findings that do you have green buildings within your state? I would like for you to maybe make findings on the green buildings that are available within your states, so you will really know whether you will even end up being the person who will raise the banner of advocacy or leadership within the green building sector within your state. There are some states that about today, they are not big on green building and sustainable construction. That is an opportunity for somebody, like if you are on this section from that state, you can just jump on that opportunity and be the person that is leading such efforts. And, I've talked about the Asian Sustainable and several other community-based construction materials in the time of host. So I'm not going to dwell more, but I've spoken about the use of bamboo, the recycled plastics, timber, and all of that. So I don't really want to spend so much time there. I say our time is fast spent. So you can always get this material to enhance your learning. And I think this is where I'm stopping for today. I've also talked about the opportunities for you as individuals And thank you. It's been a great time with you. And this is where we get to end it for today. I'm supposed to take questions from you, but because of our time, I would not want to take any question. There will be a link that will be shared with you where you can put in your question. Answers will be provided to you after the session. Do not worry. We would make sure to give answers to all your needs after this session. So I'll hand it over back to Prince now. Please, let's close. And I know it's been a long time since the start of this section, please.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Please let us appreciate Mr. Mayowa for that very, very interesting session. Sir, are we going to take the information session? Can we take the information session? Please kindly let me know if I'm audible. Team, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So yeah, I was asking if we are going to take the information session.
Okay, it is I'm in charge of the information section. Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Okay. Okay, so Kemi, please go ahead.
Okay, so thank you once again for joining in today and sticking through to the program. So basically what we are to share to you is that regarding there are some questions being raised regarding the program. Attendance is always shared after the section. Then also we have information sections shared to us via email at least 2 or 3 times in a week. Kindly do avail yourself, check your email. You can check your spam, your promotions, in order not to miss any information being shared. That is where you get all the details, the brochure, the information regarding the program, the links. I see some people asking questions about links, what to do with the information regarding the program. You get it via email. So if you do not have your email, you don't receive any communication via email, you can kindly drop your email address on the chat, or you would have actually received an email at least once for you to be able to join this program. So you can just go back to that email and message or reply that email to be able to, for us to be able to continue to send you notifications regarding the program. Also, this last slide has also been shared. I saw some people asking about the slides for the program. The last slide has also been shared, and it was shared in the last communication that was sent to us regarding the second section. Then going forward, kindly know that the section will be holding 2 sections will be holding. We have a lot to give to. We have a lot of expert knowledge speakers lined up to be able to train us in this section. So to avail yourself regarding to learn a lot in this section, we will be having 2 sections per meeting. That is next week Thursday. We'll have 2 sections, 2 speakers. So kindly note that. I think that is all I have to say for now. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Please remember to always check your email for information, and always come prepared, because we have a lot to give to you, right? Remember that if you want to be a part, learn, and that is why we are here. So thank you. We are sorry for taking so much time today, but we are also not sorry because we are here to make impact and make our environment a better place. So there's no better time than now. So thank you. I want to appreciate the ADEV leadership for the opportunity, this wonderful workshop. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Please appreciate ADEV leadership. Let me see in the comments your appreciation. If you value the knowledge that you receive, I am certain that none of us is paying for this. If you are paying for it, please write it in the comment that you paid so amount, right? So let's appreciate ADEF team if we are grateful for this. And if you want us to have another workshop, do you want us to have another workshop next week? Okay, so thank you, and God bless you. Remember that there's no better time than now for us to make the world a better place. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
So it's really interesting. The largest growth jobs are very much the backbone of the economy sort of jobs, the ones that we see in everyday life. They're much more so than the really technical jobs that we see. Farm workers and labourers is our top growing job, and there's a lot of things at play here. The biggest one is a green transition, and what we've seen is that as we move into a greener future, the demand for farm workers certainly changes, and a demand for sustainable practices is clear from our results. It's not a technical piece about what theoretically might happen. This is about what are executives doing right now, what are the decisions they're making, and what do they expect is going to happen over the next 5 years.